Welcome to Caskets and Cocktails, Memoirs of a Cemetery Dude. Get ready for a hilarious dive into the world of death care where cemetery industry veteran Mr. Danny and his daughter Katie will answer all those crazy questions you've been dying to ask. Go ahead and pour yourself a drink, pull up a rocking chair, and get ready for some laughs because we guarantee Caskets and Cocktails will be the last ones to let you down.
Welcome to Caskets and Cocktails. I'm Katie Leverett.
I'm Danny Faulkner. I'm her daddy.
And we are super excited. It's our third episode, Daddy. Can you believe that?
Time flies when you're having fun.
It sure does. And guess what? We are getting more and more and more listeners.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
We're averaging like a little over 100 listeners our first couple episodes. So hopefully all of you guys that are listening, you are sharing with your friends, you're subscribing, you're following us on social media. Because I hope that you love it, and we're having so much fun. I'm loving it.
Don't be selfish. Share.
I think I've gotten that advice from him once or twice, and I'm glad somebody else is getting it now. But we are just having so much fun doing this, and one of the things that I love to think about is like all of the crazy things that happen actually in this cemetery. So I know of a ton of stories that you've shared with me growing up, but what is one that really kind of sticks out in your mind?
One of the things that really sticks out in my mind in that we were a small company. We were a small cemetery company. And I had to do the books on Saturday and check through all of the reports and all of that sort of stuff, balance the checkbooks and all that kind of crap. And so I had a small office building on the cemetery, and my office, when I sat in my chair, was to the back of the cemetery, was facing back to the cemetery. And so one Saturday, and it was in the fall, I heard, I was working away and trying to get everything pulled together, and I kept hearing,
Ooh. That sounds like a ghost.
Well, that's what I was thinking. I'm thinking, oh Lord, all these stories about ghosts are real. And they were making all kinds of, it was making all kinds of noise, and it was getting louder. And I was thinking, oh hell, what is this?
Oh my goodness. Did you stay in your seat, or did you like jump up?
I stood up and I looked out the window just as a hot air balloon crashed into the cemetery. And the basket crashed, and I saw the guy go down in the basket.
I was going to ask, was there somebody in it?
Yeah. He was in there. He was standing up in there. And so he fell down inside. Well, the wind blew the balloon over to the side.
Oh, no.
And it just took it. I mean, it took it like a rocket almost. It was going across the cemetery, just bouncing up and down.
Had he fallen out? I mean, it's like, what is it, like a little basket or something?
It's like a big basket. It's like a big wicker basket.
How big are they? I'm thinking
like maybe 4 foot by 4 foot by 4 foot.
I mean, my goodness.
It's a big basket. It's maybe
like being in a playpen or something.
Yeah, exactly. And it may be 4 foot high. You know?
Wow.
So it hit him about his chest. And he fell down. And as this thing went across the cemetery, and I'm talking
it was
200 yards.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. I mean, it was going, and it wasn't about to stop. And it was knocking up markers. Markers were flying up in the air. So, I mean, we're talking about a lot of pressure
Oh my goodness.
And
because those things are really anchored in there.
they're very anchored in there, and they're very heavy.
Yeah.
And whoever was in there was getting hurt.
Oh my gosh.
That's what I'm thinking.
I mean, like a marker, everybody probably thinks about cemeteries, the old cemeteries with like the big tombstones.
Oh, yeah,
stuff.
yeah. No, mine were flat bronze markers, but still,
I mean,
they weighed probably 300 pounds.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, and he was hitting them and knocking them up in the air and all this stuff. And he went on, and I had a section of my cemetery that had a big hedge.
Uh-huh.
And finally, he skated across one of my roads and across another garden and hit this big hedge, and he stopped.
Did you think he was dead?
Well, I took off running as soon as I saw him because that's what I thought.
Yeah.
I thought that this was a dead guy. And
you're not usually used to dead guys on that side of the ground, huh?
Exactly. You know, you bring them to me in a box, not in a basket. Anyway, so I got there and he started. I saw him kind of milling around, and I kept hearing other noises. Mm-hmm. And I said, "Are you okay?" And he looked at me, and I heard this voice said, "Yeah, just get this son of a bitch off of me."
Oh my God, there was another person?
There were 3 other people.
You are kidding!
And they were down in the bottom, and this guy was standing up, stomping all over them. And so I helped them get out, and this big, huge balloon is just kind of like flopping in the wind, you know? And so I helped them get out. And
doesn't it have like a big fire thing? Was it still on fire?
No, it was not. They had evidently run out of gas. Maybe that's why they fell. I don't know. But anyway, so I'm getting these guys out, and there were 4 of them, and they were beat to hell.
That's tight quarters, like four adults standing in a little playpen.
Yeah, exactly. And
they must have really wanted to go on a hot air balloon ride.
I don't think that they meant to crash.
Oh yeah, that's true.
I think that was total accident. But I looked up, and over the hill of the cemetery comes this pickup truck. Uh-huh. It's got this big rack on top of it, and he was fast. I mean, he was in a hurry. And he came down, and he came right where we were, and he stopped on the street, thankfully. He didn't pull out onto the cemetery. And he said, "Are you guys all right?" And I said, "Who are you?" And he said, "Oh, I'm their tracking truck."
Oh my God. And
I said, "Well, where the hell have you been?" And he said, "I've been tracking them." So I take them back into the office. I took the 4 people back in the office, and I left this one guy there to tear the balloon down and load it all up and all this sort of stuff. And evidently it's a 2 or 3 man job, because I took him in there and we washed off all the blood and all the skin up places. We put alcohol on them and mercurochrome, whatever I could find in the first aid
Now,
kit.
Is it just you there on
Saturday?
Saturday?
I'm just there. I'm by myself.
So there's nobody else there.
Me and 4 beat up guys in a hot air balloon crash.
Oh my God.
And so I got them all, I guess, patched up. And there was probably 1 or 2 of them that should have gone to the hospital, but they were tough hot air balloon guys.
Oh, believe me, if I'm in a hot air balloon crash, even if I just like scrape my knee, you better believe I'm having like a CT scan. I'm getting the works done.
Oh yeah,
I would be scared to death.
I mean, think about all of the pressure of that thing hitting the ground. Just and 2, all the pressure of it hitting all those markers.
Oh my God.
You know, I mean, they were bounced around. It was like a 45-second car crash.
Ugh.
Where they were bouncing them around, and of course it was rattan or wicker,
Oh, no.
So they were rubbing up against it, and every time they rubbed up against it, just tore the hide off of them. They had scrapes and cuts, and they weren't happy. They weren't happy. So we walked back to where the guy was trying to load up all of the hot air balloon stuff. And he hadn't even made a dent in it. And so I got these 4 crippled guys and me and the tracker truck, and we pulled the hot air balloon out, and we took it apart. I'd never taken a hot air balloon apart.
So these beat up guys are out there having to drag this damn balloon.
Exactly. Oh
my God.
They just got through. I mean, they almost died. Not a minute ago. And they're out here, and this tracker truck guy is making him do all of this work. I'd have told him to go to hell. You're fired. You, sir, are fired. Get me another tracker truck guy. But we pulled all of this out and folded it up and rolled it up, and I said, and they thanked me for getting them all fixed up and everything, and I said, well, I appreciate that, I really do. However, if you happen to follow the track of where you drug across my cemetery, you've caused a lot of damage.
Oh my gosh, because a marker's very expensive.
Hundreds of dollars. Hundreds of dollars. And I said, I want everybody's driver's license. I want everybody's insurance cards. I don't care. I want your address. I want your phone numbers. I want everything. So I got all of that stuff. And I got the tracker truck guys too. And so I took all of the pictures of everything, the copies of everything, and wrote everything down. And
what do you do? Call the police and be like, there was a hot air balloon crash?
Well,
in my
I didn't know.
Well, I know. What do you do?
I didn't know. I didn't call the police. Because I had their insurance, and I'd rather have their insurance than have the police.
Right.
And so anyway, this was on a Saturday, and Monday I started calling the insurance people. And said, there's damage to the cemetery. Explained it all to them. They were just like real quiet.
The insurance people?
Yeah, they were real quiet, like I was really like jacking with them or something.
Yeah.
And I said, look, I've got all these guys' names and phone numbers, all this stuff. And we've got some damage here, and I want somebody to fix it. And I'm not going to. And the first insurance guy said, well, I'm not going to either. And second insurance guy said, well, I need a copy of the police report. I said, well, hell, I didn't call the police. Who calls the police on a hot air balloon? I mean, what is he going to do? Rodney King them or Billy Bat them, or what are they going to do? I mean, so anyway, it turned out that it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be.
Oh, well, that's good.
But it did cost me about $1,000. And those 5 guys all gave me $200
oh, well,
to cover
was
my costs.
Nice.
Because, I mean...
they did crash into your cemetery.
They did, yeah. And I did, give them alcohol and mercurochrome and iodine and all that stuff.
And you did that for free.
I didn't ask for a dime.
Yeah.
So, anyway, that was one of the more odd thing that happened in the cemetery.
That's pretty odd. That's about as odd as it gets, I think.
But they paid me, and we got everything fixed. And, in 2 or 3 weeks, nobody ever knew that we'd had a flying aircraft crash into the cemetery. But that's odd, I thought.
Yeah, that's super odd. I have a question. Were they, did they pay to go on this hot air balloon ride, or were they all like hot air balloon buddies, and
I think they were like a club, a hot air balloon club.
Yeah.
And, like Bob had the hot air balloon, and Bill and Tom and Roy were just like taggers on.
I know, but that seems like awful close quarters to be like,
well, maybe
let's all like go in the hot air balloon together. Let's all stand around.
Up until that point, I think they were pretty well good friends. until Bob started stomping around on them, and they said, "Get this son of a bitch off of me." But and I think it kind of went downhill after that, and then they all had to pay me $200, and it was interesting. It was interesting.
Yeah. Would you want to go on a hot air balloon ride?
No, hell no.
No. I don't think I ever do after hearing this story. I don't even know if I want to go to one of those, like, fairs where you see the hot air balloons. You know, they have them where they have all the beautiful hot air balloons.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, those sound dangerous.
I think that to me, I'm just a big coward, first of all, about stuff like that. I think if they're tethered to the ground with a rope, and I can go up, straight up, maybe 50 feet or 60 feet, and I look around and go, oh, isn't this cool, and take a couple of pictures. And then they pull the rope down.
Oh, okay, I gotcha.
But if I'm just floating around in the air, and I'm waiting on some asshole with a handlebar mustache, ain't happening.
In the tracker truck?
Yeah, in a kind of tracker truck named Roy. Just hey, I'm Roy, the tracker truck guy.
Oh my God.
So it's not for me. I'd rather have my 2 feet on the ground and just wave at them as they passed overhead, saying, "Please don't crash in my cemetery."
So we got an email that I wanted to read. It is from Paulette, and she is a murderino. Do you know what that is?
I have no idea.
Okay, so...
Sounds awful close to a murderer.
Well, it's somebody who likes to hear stories, like, kind of about it. There's another podcast. It's a little podcast called My Favorite Murder.
And it's got like 1 million listeners or something?
Basically, like a gazillion listeners.
Yeah.
But Paulette likes our show as well, which I think is awesome.
I'm beginning to like Paulette.
I know, she's pretty cool. I like her already.
I like her already.
Yeah, and I think you're going to like her a little bit more because she said she found us because I shared us on My Favorite Murder page. But she said, I love the concept of your podcast, and I always just love listening to an old Southern gentleman's voice, too.
What the hell does she mean, old?
Well, I mean, maybe she meant, like, just Southern gentlemen. Maybe that's what she meant. I bet that's what it was.
Okay. Well, then, I like her then.
There is a sweet smiley face.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
I like sweet smiley faces.
So Paulette wants to know, based on the phrase 6 feet under, are people really buried 6 feet under the ground? Is there a strict rule around it having to be a minimum of 6 feet? And why does it have to be 6 feet? And while I'm asking these questions about the geometry of cemeteries, is there a minimum of space in between the graves? I think that's awesome.
She's awful nosy.
Paulette is a smarty pants. I love it.
She is.
I'm excited to hear this because, frankly, I've watched that show 6 feet under, but I guess it never registered with me.
Well, I don't know what the hell to answer. No. Okay, 6 feet under comes from early 1900s and before.
Okay.
The embalming techniques were not good. all right? And in some cases, they were not at all.
Ew.
And they would dig the hole 6 feet deep, and they would put rocks in there, okay? And then rocks on top to keep wild animals from digging down and eating the bodies.
Oh my God, that is horrific.
Hey, don't blame me, blame her, she asked.
Ugh.
So that's where the term 6 feet under came. When you died, you were buried 6 feet under, okay? Well, in today, with modern embalming techniques, even without modern embalming techniques, with the modern way that cemeteries are operated, we dig the grave about 58 inches, okay? 6 feet is 72 inches. We dig about 58 inches, 59 inches, something like that. So we're right at 5 feet. They're concrete. A lot of the memorial park cemeteries, a lot of cemeteries for maintenance reasons are requiring vaults, concrete vaults. So when you put a casket in a concrete vault and you lower it down to say 5 feet, okay, that gives you 12 inches of dirt on top, right? 12 inches of dirt on top are going to weigh, probably 1,200 pounds.
Oh my God, I'm having like panic attacks about thinking about being under dirt. Ugh.
Well, I mean...
you're dead. I won't know,
You
right?
won't know about it, I promise.
Ugh.
You won't know anything about it. And you need 12 inches of dirt for grass to grow.
Okay.
And all we care is enough dirt on top for grass to grow. If they have some sort of grass that grows in less than that, then we'd dig less than that. Because the deeper you dig, the more cost it is as far as labor costs, machine costs, and things of that nature.
And nobody's getting down there anyway because you're sealed up in that cement vault.
Correct. You're sealed up and ain't nothing getting to you. No bugs, no animals, no nothing. No water, no nothing. Nothing's getting to you. You don't have to be 6 feet under, thankfully. And you don't have to be covered up in rock to keep coyotes from digging down there and getting you.
Oh my God.
So all of that is in the, 19th century. All that's in the 19th century, the early 20th century. But we are currently in the 21st century. So we don't have to worry about anything like that.
Well, that's good. Now, she did ask about like the size. Like, is it a certain width that you purchase? Like, what's the space in between?
It depends on the particular garden, which there are requirements as far as headstones are concerned. If you're in an upright garden, some spaces are 10 feet long.
Wait, what's an upright garden? Like they bury you like feet down, head up?
No. The upright stone.
Oh, like a tombstone that
right.
you think about normally with cemeteries.
Some of those spaces are 10 feet long, so the tombstone can sit on there, and you can still dig a grave without moving the tombstone.
Gotcha.
Some of the gardens are 8 foot long because the vault is right at 7 feet. Okay, so they want to dig enough room to where they've got enough to adjust the vault down in there. Now, between the spaces, that is dependent on the cemetery you go to too.
Okay.
Like if you go to the National Cemetery, veterans go to national cemeteries, there is no space between.
I was going to say, they seem so close when you see the pictures of the...
The vaults go jam up against each other. Just jam. You go to memorial gardens, there's generally generally a 4-inch wall between the spaces.
Okay.
So it keeps the integrity of each space depending on when you're digging.
Mm-hmm.
Now you go to some old country churches,
Mm-hmm.
they don't have a clue.
Mm-hmm.
They just say dig right here, and you dig there, and you don't know if you're 6 inches or a foot or 2 inches or whatever. So they don't keep the records that modern cemeteries do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So in order to, and I don't know that I answered her question, but it's dependent on where you're buried.
Mm-hmm.
It's dependent on how you're buried.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of cemeteries vary between length of graves to 8 feet, 8'6", 10 feet, depending on what kind of marker you're having. A lot of separation depends on is 4 inches to 6 inches, depending on where you're buried.
Right.
And the depth is always around 48, 49 inches, maybe sometimes 60 inches if you've got a new person that's digging.
So 6 feet under is so last century, right?
So century before last.
Oh, okay. So even further back.
Yeah, century before last. Remember, we're in the 21st century.
That's right. That's right. Oh my gosh. Well, that is super interesting because I've always heard 6 feet under, and
Yeah.
I think everyone always has. So
Well, there's always the term, like when people are driving on curvy mountain roads, they'll say, well, you don't want to go deep 6. Well, deep 6 is you go off the side of the road and you die and you buried 6 feet under.
Oh,
So
I
there's-
didn't know that.
Yeah, there's a lot of terms about 6 feet, and it's just not true.
Well, Paulette, that was an awesome question, Paulette.
Way to go, Paulette!
Now, one of the things that they say on her favorite podcast is stay sexy and don't get murdered. So, Paulette,
Wow.
SSDGM.
What?
Yeah, we'll just let that sit with Mr. Danny for a little bit. I'll have to show him how to use podcasts.
SSDGM. Wow. Hey, listen, Paulette, don't get murdered. Come back and listen to us, subscribe to us. Tell all your friends to subscribe to us. We're depending on you, Paulette. This whole show depends on you.
Well, don't feel pressure, Paulette. We depend on everybody, and we appreciate everybody listening to us. This was just an awesome episode, Daddy. I mean, I had to pause it, you guys, because I was crying tears. I was laughing so hard. So this was a good one.
All right, I hope all of you guys like it. I hope you tell your friends about it, and I hope you all subscribe. How's that?
Absolutely. We're at Caskets and Cocktails on almost all social media platforms. And be sure to subscribe. That's how we get our listeners. And thank you guys so much. And I'm so glad I get to do this with you, Daddy. This has been so much fun.
It's great fun. It's great fun, and I'm glad that other people enjoy it.
Yeah. Well, until next time, guys, and we just really appreciate it.
Hey, listen. Subscribe.
Beach Too Sandy, Water Too Wet is a comedy podcast featuring brother and sister duo Alex and Christina as they recap dramatic readings of one-star reviews written by real people with not-so-real problems. Whether it's a bar's no throw-up policy, a barista who's just too friendly, or a school psychologist's fashion sense, prepare for equal amounts of laughter and eye-rolling. Listen to Beach Too Sandy, Water Too Wet on Spotify, Anchor, Apple Podcasts, or any of your favorite podcast apps. You can also find them on all social media platforms at Beach Too Sandy.